First story I wanted to talk about is about a guy named Clay Clark. He is the organizer of the Reawaken America tour, which I've talked about a lot, but I haven't done like a deep dive into Clay Clark himself. So I wanted to give you an idea of who Clay Clark is and some of the stranger things that he has to say. This clip came out early January 2022, and it's just intended to give you an idea of who he is and what he believes. So let's give this a watch and see what he has to say.
The models that said that 2.2 million Americans would die from COVID, those are false, and they're funded by Bill Gates. I got it, okay? The PCR tests are false.
I just want to put on record what he's saying here is not true. I think I have to say it for each thing, so let's examine each thing individually real fast.
The models that said that 2.2 million Americans would die from COVID, those are false.
The models that said that 2.2 million Americans would die from COVID are false? I mean, no, those models were not false based on the data inputs that we used to get there. Those were actually correct. It's just we modified the situation to save people's lives. Successfully, I might add. So no, those models were not false. We just put work into preventing worst case scenarios from playing out. And we succeeded. The worst case scenario did not play out. I mean, we're still up to what, like 1 million or something? How many COVID deaths do we have in the U.S.? We're at 980,000 COVID deaths currently at the moment that this is being filmed. So yeah, 2.2 million Americans suffering from this. That isn't that far off, honestly. That model was not, quote unquote, false. We just took steps to try to save people's lives and succeeded.
The PCR tests are false.
I don't know what he is using to determine that, but that's simply incorrect.
And the guy who invented them, Kerry Mullis, has said Fauci's a pathological liar.
Wow, isn't that convenient? The people that you don't agree with or you don't believe are pathological liars. No, like, extra information that you want to give us, no explanation of any sort. Just write them off completely as pathological liars without explanation. Fantastic.
The treatments for COVID are being withheld.
What is he even talking about? I assume he's talking about, like, ivermectin or something. FYI, there was a study done very recently that determined, double-blind, absolute best quality study that you can get in science, determined that ivermectin is completely and totally, 100% useless for curing COVID. So take that for what you will.
Then I researched at timetofreeamerica.com. I put all my research there, but I discovered that the Rockefeller plan, which I had in my possession, had been written in 2010, which called for the release of a synthetic virus, quarantines, curfews, mandates, forced vaccinations.
All complete nonsense. And that whole quarantines, forced vaccinations thing, that never happened either. These people have been talking about like quarantine camps for who knows how long. That never happened, did it? But they still harp on this.
And ultimately putting you into quarantine camps if you don't take the RNA modifying nanotechnology.
Wow, that's a lot. RNA modifying nanotechnology. Seriously, this has got to be one of the weirdest conspiracy theories that I've heard in a while. And this dude honestly, genuinely, to the bottom of his heart, believes it. I figured this would be a good video to start out with, just so that you guys have a good grip on who he is and what he believes.
Now, somebody today reached out to me, and they weren't aware of this, and their mind exploded. I talked to them, talked them off the ledge, because I want you to know this proves God is real.
How? How does this prove God is real? How does this give us any insight at all into God or whatever else? This dude is absolutely unhinged in every way. It blows my mind. This right here, this is why it's important to cover him. Watch this next clip. This is with somebody named Pete Santilli.
Eric Trump has now joined the tour, and what that does, by Eric joining the tour, what that does is that brings people to the events that maybe think shows like yours and mine are crazy shows, because we share so much truth, Pete. You know, on our show, your show, Pete, is basically the show that covers the stuff that Fox News will not touch.
That's why it's important to talk about this guy, because he's absolutely right. Eric Trump went to his conference. Eric Trump shared a stage with Pete Santilli and Clay Clark, who spread all of these baseless, insane conspiracy theories. That's why we've got to talk about this guy. Well, since we're talking about some of his conspiracy theories, why don't we take a look at one of his more recent ones? This one is from March 2022. He was on Real America's Voice, so check this one out.
What do people need to understand in your estimation?
What we need to understand is that Congress is working on legislation called Hr6666. It's HR and then 4 sixes.
Yeah, right off the bat, he's using the fact that there are 6s in the title to fearmonger about it. Obviously, he's appealing to a religious crowd. He is an ultra-religious, ultra-nationalist kind of person, right-wing extremist type of person. So naturally, being afraid of the number 6 comes with the territory. Since we're talking about Hr6666, though,
Hr6666.
yeah, let's read about it. Let's see exactly what it is and if there really is anything to be afraid of or whatever else. This is a fact-check article from Reuters. The title is False Claim, Hr6666 Bill allows strangers to enter your house, test you for COVID-19, and take family members into quarantine. Reuters is an absolutely phenomenal news reporting agency, by the way. If you haven't heard of them or don't use them, you absolutely should start using them. They're great. This was written by Reuters staff. It doesn't give a specific name. Released May 13th, 2020. So the Hr6666 bill thing, this has been out for a while. This whole, fear-mongering thing about it has been going around for like ever. Social media users have been sharing images online that claim Bill Hr6666, introduced by Democratic Congressman Bobby Rush, and also known as the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone Act, or TRACE Act, will allow the government to forcibly enter homes, test, and remove family members, including children, to be taken into quarantine. This is the quarantine camps claim. This is what they're talking about. Like, they're deathly afraid of quarantine camps appearing. Which, by the way, never happened. We made it through the pandemic, not entirely yet, I don't think, but we've been in it for a couple of years now, and quarantine camps never appeared. How about that? Forced vaccinations never happened. Never happened. There was a period of time when Biden was trying to push this executive order, I think, that would make vaccination or weekly testing mandatory, one or the other. You could either get vaccinated or get tested weekly. That's not mandatory vaccination, by the way. And the Supreme Court shot that down. The Supreme Court justices that Trump put into office, by the way, are the ones that voted against that. Just putting that on record for you. So we haven't had quarantine camps, and we haven't had mandatory vaccinations this entire time. This is all fear-mongering nonsense. It always has been. Let's keep reading about Bill Hr6666. I got to come up with a shorter name for that. Maybe HR quadruple six? I don't know. We'll see. It says, one post reads, Nancy Pelosi's trying to pass a law called Hr6666. The irony is stifling. If this passes, strangers can come in your house and take, by force if needed, your family members, including your children, to a quarantined area. Please tell me I'm in a nightmare. You're in a nightmare. This is nonsense. This was not true when this post was written. It wasn't true when the article debunked it, and it's not true now. Hr6666 was introduced by Rush on May 1st, 2020. The bill will allocate $100 billion for COVID-19 testing and contact tracing by using mobile health units. The bill says nothing about forced testing, forced entry to people's houses, or the removal of family members to be quarantined. In a statement to Reuters via email, Rush said participation would be voluntary. This is a quote from the congressman who submitted the bill. Contact tracing is not a new idea and is regarded by the CDC as a key strategy for preventing further spread of COVID-19. My bill, the COVID-19 Trace Act, is about appropriately and safely using this time-tested principle to better assist the communities that are the most impacted by the coronavirus, namely the African American community, through voluntary testing and door-to-door outreach. So all this fear-mongering from Clay Clark is absolute nonsense. And he's still saying this in late March 2022. So that's who we're dealing with in Clay Clark. Let's keep listening to the clip.
Then 4 sixes. That legislation, if that were passed, would make every single person on the planet, or at least in America, to take an RNA-modifying nanotechnology inside your body that has the capacity to control your thoughts.
Oh my God, this is really unhinged stuff. I didn't hear anything about that's a new claim. Like, from my understanding, Bill Hr6666 was just about contact tracing and helping us figure out, like, how to stop the virus, like how to stop the spread and all that. People were complaining about the government busting into your house and, like, taking people away or whatever. That was nonsense in itself, but I guess we have, like, an added claim on top of it. What was that again?
Would make every single person on the planet, or at least in America, to take an RNA modifying nanotechnology inside your body that has capacity to control your thoughts.
I love it, dude. I love it. I love this stuff. It is so unhinged and crazy. It is fascinating to me. So he's talking about forced vaccination here. That's not in Hr6666 either. So I really don't know what he's even talking about.
So everybody out there needs to make sure that all of your elected officials need to know, do not let Hr6666 pass, and do not take those RNA modifying nanotechnologies inside your body. If you've already taken the shots inside your body and you have concerns, please go to .com and just come out to one of our events, because we have doctors, scientists, and people that know what's going on.
No. They don't. They don't have anybody who knows what's going on. If the organizer believes this stuff about it, I guarantee you don't have anybody appearing who knows what's going on.
Developing therapies and treatments that can help reverse some of the side effects of these quote-unquote gene therapy RNA-modifying nanotechnology vaccines.
Okay, that was bizarre and unhinged, but it gets even more interesting from here. Check this out. Listen to what the host says after Clay Clark leaves.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
All right. And look, once again.
This is called hedging, what we're about to listen to.
Look, once again, I just want to repeat. Are we giving you any definitive conclusions on this? I want to be very clear. We're not. But guess what? That's not our job. You know whose job that is? That's your job. It's not Don Lemon's job, and it's not my job.
Wow, man. Well, I feel like it's the news's job to communicate correct and accurate, objective information to us. It is, in fact, your job to give us correct information. This is him hedging. I see this kind of thing all the time from right-wing extremist media. They're always being careful about what they say and backing up and saying, well, we're not saying that the election was stolen. When Dominion filed, like, billion-dollar lawsuits against a bunch of people, Sidney Powell, One American News also, I think, they all had to come out with this big, long statement about how they didn't believe that the election was fraudulent and all this other stuff. They're always hedging. And after that hedging is over, after they've backed up and said, we're not saying this, they then continue on to just come out and say it.
Okay, here's the difference, though. Don Lemon's never going to talk about any of what we just heard. We will here on the water cooler. Why? Because it's part of the narrative. It's part of the full complexity of all of this that you need to.
We're giving you the full picture. No, you're not. You're not giving us the full picture. You're giving us an inaccurate, distorted picture of the situation. The news is supposed to provide objective information. Here's the problem. When it comes to something like the flat earth debate, there is no moderate position on that. There is a correct answer. Is the earth flat or not? The answer is no. The earth is not flat. That's not me being biased against flat earthers or whatever. That's just me stating facts. The fact is the earth is not flat. This is called neutrality bias. Don't fall for it. There are objective answers to some things. The war in Ukraine was unprovoked. That's not me taking Ukraine's side. That's me being objective. Sometimes you can't both be objective and neutral simultaneously. What this guy is doing is trying to paint a picture that he's giving us all the facts. He's giving us the whole thing so that we can examine it ourselves. We don't need the whole thing. What we want are the facts, and you're not giving them to us.
Of this that you need to know. And guess what? Now the responsibility falls on we the people, if you will. In other words, folks, all of you out there need to go research it, figure it out for yourself, and draw your own conclusions.
No, don't figure it out, research it for yourself, and draw your own conclusions. Listen to experts who've been studying this stuff for 30 years, 40 or 50 years even, some of them. Listen to experts who know what they're talking about. A Google search is not more valuable than 50 years of experience in the field of vaccine research.
Figure it out for yourself and draw your own conclusions. That's the right thing to do. Back in a moment.
So anyways, yeah, that's Clay Clark. That's the hilarious network, Real America's Voice. And that is how unhinged they are right now. He just came out with a brand new talk recently, a brand new clip that I wanted to take a look at, late March 2022. He went up on stage and had some interesting things to say. So take a look at this one. This is Clay Clark, late March 2022.
The word corona equals 666.
Whoa, interesting. I think I've heard that somewhere before. That's really familiar. You know where I've heard that before? I heard that claim from Mark Taylor on the Erskine podcast. Check this out. I had to dig deep for this clip. This is from mid-November 2020. It was shortly after the 2020 election. When we start out, I believe it's Erskine talking first.
They're even calling it the Biden vaccine. And isn't it interesting?
Yeah, this is before the vaccine actually came out, or before it was available to the public. It was really early. And the right-wingers were like really in favor of it still, currently, because Trump was the president at this moment still. And Trump was speaking highly of the vaccine, basically. So you can hear Erskine complaining that people were thanking Biden for the vaccine instead of who the thanks was supposed to be going to, which is Donald Trump. They really do live in a different reality.
Even calling it the Biden vaccine. And isn't it interesting? They wait till a week after the election to announce they have a vaccine. Right.
This has been set up from the very beginning from the Democrats.
Yeah, this is Mark Taylor. If you're unfamiliar, I've talked about him a few times. Mark Taylor is a pastor, megachurch pastor, basically, also known as the firefighter prophet. The guy was the subject of a documentary put out by Liberty University, completely unhinged from reality. He is a massive QAnon promoter, QAnon follower, incredibly invested in the QAnon movement. Mark Taylor is, and extremely influential.
This has been set up from the very beginning from the Democrats. Whether it was trying to hurt Trump with the COVID, whether it was trying to hurt him with this or that. I mean, there's so many different things. The vaccine, I tell people, if you were listening to Trump back in the COVID times.
Back in the COVID times, as if we weren't still in the COVID times at the moment. It's because, these people tend to believe that COVID was a thing for a short period of time. But how long that period of time was depends on who you're talking to and how advantageous it was for it to be over by a certain point in time.
Trump's 10 steps ahead of everybody.
Are we talking about the same Trump right now?
And when you listen to him speak, every time that he would say the word COVID, switch that out with the word cabal.
Oh, my God. This is his QAnon roots shining through right now. Cabal is code for, the elites or, whoever else. The people who take adrenochrome, basically.
Mm-hmm. Every time that he says, what is the cure? The vaccine. What is the vaccine? We, the people in the military. When they go in and they start arresting these people. I think he was giving code out a lot of times to the people, because there's always more than one depth of revelation to what he says.
You notice the word there, revelation? That was an interesting choice of words, wasn't it? That's because Mark Taylor genuinely, truly, to the bottom of his heart, believes Donald Trump to be a part of his theology. He's like one of not their prophets. They don't seem to believe that Trump is a prophet. They view him as one of the messiahs. They believe he's one of the top people in the hierarchy, incredibly influential in their Christian belief system.
He's so much far ahead of the game. So the vaccine is the cure for what? The cabal. That's what's going to happen, I believe, when they release the vaccine.
So right now, mid-November 2020, Mark Taylor is talking about how excited he is for the vaccine to come out because it's going to be the cure to the cabal, quote unquote. Now look where the whole QAnon movement is with it. Isn't that interesting? How they believe one thing and then immediately flip on a dime like that. No questions asked. A new narrative is submitted to them and they accept it instantly. Isn't that something? Here's the next part. This is Erskine speaking, the podcast host. This is the part that I wanted to talk about, because if you remember a minute ago, I talked about Clay Clark saying something interesting about COVID, or Corona, as he called it.
The word corona equals 666.
Okay, so now we're going to listen to this Erskine podcast and see what he has to say.
We're going to go with Corona. It's called the coronavirus. Now, if you go with Corona, C-O-R-O-N-A, 6 letters. C is the third letter in the alphabet. O is the 15th letter. R is the 18th. O is the 15th. N is the 14th. A is the first. 6 letters in Corona. Those other numbers add up to 66. 666. A cult-driven script and a Luciferian human sacrifice, a mega ritual. This is what Satan uses, and that's it. 666, Corona. Is that coincidence? I don't buy coincidence. Do you?
No.
Yeah, these people are so unhinged from reality. I honestly find it entertaining as hell. Truly. I am so entertained by how completely unhinged these people are. It's sad. I mean, it's terribly sad, and I wish I could find some way to help these people. Really, I do. But I will be damned if this is not entertaining as hell. So anyway, let's get back to the Clay Clark video. Got a little sidetracked there. Remember, late March 2022 is when he came up on stage saying this. So they've been saying this for like a couple years now, year and a half at least, since the beginning of the pandemic, honestly. Let's see what he had to say.
The word corona equals 666. So if you go to Google real quick, if you pull it up on the screen real quick and just pull up Google, and you search for the Google Chrome logo, the Google Chrome logo remember, Yuval Noah Harari is now the prophet of Silicon Valley. Under his leadership, they changed the logo to be 666. The Google Chrome logo is 666. And the Google Chrome logo is 666.
Dude, I love it. Seriously, I love these conspiracies. They entertain me to no end. This is the Google Chrome 666 conspiracy theory. This is something else, man.
So people always say, well, you got to trust Google. How many of you had people say this? Well, Google says. So the Google Chrome logo is 666. Now, the day one that Biden got in office, he asked for $6.5 billion to start a new department, a new agency of the United States government. And that agency, type in Hr6666. There's 4 sixes.
Once again, he's going back to the Hr6666 bill. Like, we talked about this. This is not what he says it was. He's saying Biden wanted to create a new agency for the U.S. where they're going to, like, go into your house and drag you away to quarantine camps and stuff. It's just nonsense.
Is to do surveillance under the skin and be able to arrest you for pre-crime.
Arrest you for pre-crime. Isn't there a movie about that? Minority Report or something like that? No. This is absolute nonsense, top to bottom.
And the guy he tapped to be the head of that agency was Jeffrey Epstein's partner.
Oh, I love it. They searched for it, and there's a Reuters fact check right here in the bottom right corner. Oh, that is hilarious when they searched for it.
Type in Hr6666, there's HR and then 4 sixes, and then click on it. There he is. And click on that legislation right there, top. Click on that first link. Boom. All right. So look at that. Hr6666. So, again, COVID pop quiz stands for vaccination, ID, AI. That's what it is. Google Chrome logo is 666. That's what it is.
That is so unhinged, dude. What were they saying a minute ago? COVID stands for what? I think I've heard this before. So I just wanted to look it up. Yeah, okay, there's another Reuters fact check article here. Here's a fact check on Reuters. Once again, false claim. COVID-19 stands for Certification of Vaccine Identification by Artificial Intelligence. COVID-AI? I don't understand what they're... Oh, is it just ID? Certification of Vaccine Identification, like COVID? Is that what he's saying? I mean, it's made up, obviously. I don't even have to look at the fact check, but it is truly entertaining as hell to go through these fact checks and these crazy claims and see what people are saying about it. Social media users have been sharing images online that claim COVID-19 is an abbreviation for Certificate of Vaccination Identification by AI. The posts often include black and white photograph of a soldier of 2 men while the soldier checks a document. In one post, the top part of the image breaks down each letter of COVID by the corresponding word and then says, "Let this sink in, Certificate of Vaccination Identification." It explains the number 19 by saying it's a reference to artificial intelligence, or AI, the first and 9th letters of the alphabet. Wow, dude. That is... Okay, now I understand what the claim is. That is unhinged, bizarre stuff, really. There's no evidence to support this claim. The images do not offer a source or justification. Of course they don't. They need a source or justification. They just bust out the craziest stuff they can think of and run with it. That's what they've always done. The far right is like way, way over the top now, but they've always been very, very conspiratorial like this, like since day one.
If you look next time you use Google, just know you're using Satan's filter. Seriously. It's very important to know that. Also, Google Chrome, okay? It's called the Chrome is the name of the logo. Chrome is the name of the search engine.
You ready for another conspiracy theory? He's going to lay another one on us.
It's powered by an operating system called Adreno. Adreno Chrome. You're using Satan's tool every time you use Google.
Yeah. Adreno Chrome. What is the Adreno as an operating system? What is he talking about? There's no operating system called Adreno. There's a type of graphics card that has like a brand name or whatever called Adreno, as far as I know. I mean, if I'm incorrect here and there is an operating system named Adreno, post it in the comments, but I'm deeply skeptical. I looked this up, didn't see a word about an operating system. Dude is just spouting nonsense. Doesn't even need to back any of it up because he knows his audience will believe him. This is the guy that is running the Reawaken America tour that, FYI, Jim Brewer went to. Just putting it out there. It is entertaining as hell to listen to these people eat themselves alive with conspiracies, really. It is so interesting to watch this play out in front of us.